Good, good. Yours.
Hi everyone. We're going to get started in just a minute, but there will be some time potentially for some audience questions. So I have paper and pens if you'd like to write down a question. And then Nancy will be picking them up as you go, or you can also bring them over to the table to me. We will be sorting the questions just to make sure that we don't repeat, that things are not asked a million times over, or that nothing favors one particular candidate or another. So if you need paper and pens, raise your hand, shout. All right.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you. Oh, we'll just write them all down.
There you go.
Oh,
Sharon, I'm telling you. Who says I don't know how to share?
Here, hold on. You do. Hey, that's fun. I completed. Good, there you go. Yeah. So she said she. Right.
So there was a traffic situation on I-80. We're gonna give our scheduled moderator from the Legal and Villagers a few more minutes to arrive, but if she doesn't get here by 6:15, we will start with myself standing in for her, okay? So thank you. Yes, thank you for your patience.
Good, brother. How's yourself?
Is the light red? Okay. Just flick it to the left and back to the right. We don't need it for this. I think that's just for the moderator. You guys both project really well.
Oh, yeah. Thank you.
Hey, Miss Bonnie.
Oh my God, how you doing?
Okay, you guys are all set up. You know the time. See, we're totally confused.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, she is, yeah. General, yeah.
Take care of my shop, so I'm very
Good.
Well, thank you for all day.
Brandy, give me a 30-second linear. One minute. Earlier they did hand out some pieces of paper. I want to still try to go over that table.
evening, everyone. Good evening. Thank you for your patience this evening. Of course, Natomas, as always, was making news from the wee hours this morning until just before this forum with shootings and vehicle fires and wildfires up in D1. So, good to be here with you all. I'm glad you made it. We have one mic tonight for the moderator. This event is being live streamed via YouTube, and we're using the microphone on the camera for our candidates. So I'm going to ask you to refrain from whispering and chatting during the forum. If you need to have a conversation with somebody that you came with, please step outside so that only the voices of our candidates and the moderator will be picked up. So with that, let me introduce myself. My name is Brandy Boyd, and I am the publisher of the Natomas Buzz. And I welcome you tonight to our candidate forum. This candidate forum is being co-hosted with the Gardenland Northgate Neighborhood Association and the League of Women Voters of Sacramento County. And I want to thank our sitting council member, Jeff Harris, for underwriting the use of this community meeting space for tonight's event. So if you see him, thank him. The forum tonight is featuring our two runoff candidates for District 3 City Council seat, Michael Lynch and Karina Talamantes. And we're holding this forum now because we want to make sure that voters have an opportunity to both meet and hear from the candidates before you get your mail-in ballots. We know from the last election, the primary, that the majority of voters did vote by mail, whether they sent in their ballots or they dropped them off on election day. And so with that in mind, we wanted to make sure that our voters have an opportunity again to hear from our candidates. It's really important to me as the publisher of the Natomas Buzz to provide opportunities for my readers and the voters to be informed when it comes to elections. And I am proud to be one of the few, hosting one of the few in-person candidate forums in 2022. So the league has been doing a lot of work with other organizations, but most of those have been virtual forums. If you're interested in what's happening in District 1, I'll be hosting another forum on Thursday at the MP3 High School, also at 6 o'clock. So please join us there as well. With that, I'd like to turn over the floor to our moderator this evening, Paula Lee from the League. And we have fewer candidates now with the runoff, and so we're going to encourage our candidates to use the rebuttal option this evening. Again, this is not a debate, it's a candidate forum, and we have some basic questions that we provided the League to start off our night. But as you know, we also have pen and paper for those of you who are here to submit questions. And I'm going to ask Paula to give you some of the guidelines that we use to sort those questions and why we may or may not use the questions that you submit this evening. So with that, please welcome Paula.
Thank you, Brandy. Yeah, about the reason that we sort the questions, we've trained Tracy there in how the league sorts questions. It's just merely to avoid redundancy. So we don't ask the same question that's already been asked. And also we want to avoid any personal attacks. Of course, we would never ask a question like that. So that's all our question sorting really is all about. We're trying to, the goal is to cover as many issues as possible that pertain to your district and to the city as a whole in the time that we have with these candidates. So, I don't want to be redundant again and repeat those opening remarks from Brandy, but I do want to thank the Natomas Buzz and Brandy, and I guess Councilmember Harris too, and Gardenland, Gardenland Northgate for hosting. I'm Paula Lee, as she said. I'm going to be the moderator, and I'm a member of the league. We also have other members of the league here tonight in the front row. we're training timers because we have so many forums going during this election season. The League, little commercial about the League, if you don't mind. The League is a nonpartisan organization. We're all volunteers, men and women. Our mission is to encourage participation in government through education and advocacy. This tonight is an education event. You can find nonpartisan information about candidates that are submitted by candidates, and we hope these candidates have submitted information on our nonpartisan website. And I would write this down if I were you, or pick up a bookmark on your way out. votersedge.org. We offer this service free to candidates to communicate with voters and save money. That's our contribution to the problem of money in politics. So remember, votersedge.org. And I hope you candidates have gotten on the Voter's Edge.
Yes,
Good. The League does not support or oppose or evaluate candidates or political parties, but we do take positions on public policy issues, including ballot measures and legislation. And we take those positions based on our studies and consensus process. That's the advocacy arm of the League. Ballot measures will be on the November ballot, and you can find our positions on 2 of those ballot measures on our website. If you're interested in public policy, we're not often able to give our pitch, so we want to say, if you here tonight are interested, or any of you in the audience, interested in public policy at the local, state, or national level of government, please consider joining the Sacramento League. We have active committees working on homelessness and housing, criminal justice, climate change, ranked choice voting, or you could just join us and support our work. There's no dues for students. This forum tonight conforms to our policies for a fair and unbiased, nonpartisan forum. Some of these questions, as Brandy said, were solicited in advance from the community, and we'll begin with those questions. And you can also submit questions on the cards that were provided. Somebody picked them up, right? Just raise your hand. We also do not take questions directed toward one candidate. That's important to know too. So the candidates tonight for City Council District 3 in alphabetical order are Michael Lynch and Karina Talamontes. And the format will be as follows. Each candidate will make a 2-minute opening statement. They'll have 1.5 minutes to respond to your questions, and they'll have a 1-minute closing statement. We'll start by allowing for rebuttals, but if there's so many of them that it gets in the way of questions, we'll cut those down. If there's something critical that needs a rebuttal, they're quick. They're just 15 seconds. The League's timekeeper tonight is Claudia Bonsignor in the front row. She'll let you know when you have 30 seconds left and when to stop. And in the spirit of fairness, with only 2 candidates tonight, you'll see that we're rotating back and forth with who gets the candidate first. And now to the questions. Okay, we're going to begin with Karina Talamontes. What do you see your role is? Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Yeah. Sorry, yes.
Inaugurated the traffic and that's everything.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Thank you. Yeah, this is my first time. And we'll begin with an opening statement from Katrina Talamontes. Karina.
It's okay. Let's see. So good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you to the Natomas Buzz, to GNNA, to the League of Women Voters for hosting this. Civic engagement is important. Elections are important, especially local politics and local government. It impacts every little aspect of your life. So ensuring that people go out and vote for me or my opponent, as long as they cast a vote, is the best avenue that we can do to ensure that people see the importance of civic engagement. Sacramento is at a crossroads. On homelessness, on housing affordability, on climate change, on transportation, on cost of living, and making sure that our residents here are taken care of. The last 5 years, I'm on my 5th year at City Hall, I've worked to help address these issues. And I have the experience that qualifies me for the next steps to serve this working class community of West Natomas, North Natomas, South Natomas, Northgate, and Gardenland. I know our schools, I know our parks, I know our community members. I've had many coffee meetings with different leaders in the community that have lived here for over 30 years, that have immigrant farm workers, working class family. This is a working class community. I understand the struggles. I was recently the president of the Sac County Board of Education, overseeing our 245,000 students. I know what our kids need. I'm a small business owner. Me and my brother have a food truck called Frutazo Stands. We have a t-shirt apparel company called Maldición Brand. I understand the challenges our small business owners are facing here in District 3. And most importantly, I have love for our community, and I'm looking forward to hopefully serving as your council member, listening, strengthening our relationships, and really drawing down resources to our community that's been forgotten. It's time for our fair share of funding and resources. Thank you.
Thank you, Karina. Michael Lynch.
I want to start off by thanking GNNA, the League of Women Voters, and Natomas Buzz for hosting tonight's forum, and for you all coming out on a Tuesday evening to talk about community issues. I'm from Sacramento, went to Valley High School in South Sac, a community where there was tremendous potential but very little opportunities. I was fortunate. You know, I grew up in a single-parent home. I was raised by my dad. He was my football coach, baseball coach, basketball coach, even dressed up as Santa Claus in my elementary school every year. So for me, growing up at Valley High School and football, that allowed me a path to college. And when I was in college, first to graduate, I had an experience that changed my life forever. One of my friends was shot and killed. Back to my community, come back to my community and make sure that other young people didn't have the same challenges to be able to make sure they live their best life. So 10 years ago, I created an organization called Improve Your Tomorrow that helps to close the college opportunity gap for young men of color. We started with 17 young people at one school, and we serve over 4,065 schools, and we have closed the college opportunity gap. But what brought me to run for city council was a frustration. I was tired of seeing my families being pushed out of housing because rents have risen 20%. I was tired of seeing my young people step through encampments to be able to get to school. I was tired of them not feeling safe to be able to walk to the store. Ask yourself a question. Has our quality of life improved over the past 5 years? I know Sacramento can be better. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Okay, Karina. What do you see your role is in supporting the District 1 council member-elect when it comes to redevelopment of the former arena site in Natomas?
So the former arena site is going to be converted into housing, into condos, and the North State Medical Campus and hospital and medical campus. So we're going to have future doctors being grown here in Natomas. Natomas Unified also bought a piece of land next to it where they're going to do a school based on STEM. And so it's going to be a really good partnership. And our role is to work together. District 3 cuts off at Arena. You can literally, you're a rock stone away from the New York Arena and the hospital that's going to go there. And it's really important for the two council members to work together to have one Natomas. District 3 is in a very unique position because now we're combined. North Natomas, South Natomas, and Gardenland and Northgate that were used to be lumped in with East Sac, and West Natomas, who was lumped in with Midtown and Downtown and Old Sac. Now we're going to be one strong voice on the Sacramento City Council. So when it comes to policies, we have 2 votes for Natomas. And when it comes to the entire city council, you need 5. You need 5 votes. And that's why I am really proud of the support that I have from council members Jennings, Councilmember Lalonde, Councilmember Bang, Councilmember Valenzuela, and our mayor. Because what you need is 5 votes to be able to cross any policy, any budget line item, anything that you want to succeed in your district, you need to have the votes. Because that's the way it works. And what I need from you is for you to come to City Hall with me. I need you to look at the agenda with me, see what our priorities are, and make sure you do come and do public comment, and that you voice our frustrations as a community for not getting our fair share of resources.
Michael Lynch?
Yeah, so I grew up in a community that was working class. I grew up in a community where you drive across a set of railroad tracks and the community changes. South Natomas, North Natomas, the resource differentials are huge. North Natomas just built an $11 million facility. This facility right here, South Natomas Community Center, is still in phase 1. The resources that we need in South Natomas consistently be applied through. Because most of the development, most of the retail, most of the housing goes to North Natomas. So our community right here, like, is at a crossroads. Resources. Right here within this community, right, I serve several hundred young people across 4 schools who have been successful in graduating high school, going to college. I help to run policy campaigns. I help to end willful defiance and Natomas Unified, working alongside school district leaders. But what you see when you drive across the 80 is a huge resource differential. So yes, I will pledge to work with our District 1 council person, but I'm also going to be unapologetic about South Natomas, about making sure that our community right here gets the resources that it needs. That we have the resources to make sure that we can build facilities, we can have programs, that we can make sure that there are opportunities on Friday and Saturdays for young people. Also that we can make sure for safety. Right here within South Natomas, 2 homicides the past 2 months. We have some serious challenges, and you need a council person who's not focused on North Natomas, who's focused on bringing resources right here to the South area so our kids can have every opportunity to be successful.
Rebuttal, 15 seconds. 15 seconds. Karina?
So the reason why North Natomas gets more resources is because it's a special districts finance plan. Former Mayor Heather Fargo implemented these fees prior to the development, which is why they get more money for resurfacing, parks, and other amenities. And that's why South Natomas doesn't receive some of these.
Okay, that's it. They're short. Sorry. They have to be short. They can't be like little speeches.
Sorry.
So that's okay. On this issue of safety, Michael Lynch, you might want to say more. This question is about safety and guns. The Sacramento police log frequently includes reports of illegally possessed guns when pulling over vehicles in District 3. And there have been at least 4 fatal shootings in District 3 in the past year. What would you propose as a council member to address these issues?
So my path to public service started because my friend was shot and killed and I was 17 years old. So I'm intimately familiar with what happens when you lose a loved one. As a council person, my #1 priority is safety. Safety to make sure that, right, that when you walk to the park, when you go to a store, you can feel that you're gonna be okay. I'm raising 2 kids, right here, 6 and 3. Right, so when I go to a park, I wanna make sure that I can feel safe. And within the past 2 months, 2 miles from my house, 2 different homicides. So we know again, right, that our city leadership has failed to be able to address a basic premise of city council, safety. Right, so as a council person, I think it's important to remove guns off the road. It's not only important, right, to make sure that we can continue to invest in our officers, that we can hire the right people, that we can train the right people, but also that we have prevention. Because that same 24-year-old who may pick up a gun was at one point 12. What opportunity did they have to live their best life? Like, and that's my frustration with the city of Sacramento. We're quick to be able to make sure that we can penalize young people, right? But we want to create a safe community. That requires investing in them. And that requires us creating a structure where we can feel safe. So enforcement is important, prevention is important, to make sure that we can hire the right folks and do the resources we need to create a safe community.
Karina?
Our Sacramento Police Department recently did a gun buyback program. It was so popular that they had to shut it down within an hour of it being open because people were willing to return their guns, and we need to have more of that type of programming. We do need to work with community leaders. We need to work with city leaders, and we got to work with our neighbors, honestly, to help create safe spaces. We got to get to know our neighbors, and that's probably one of the most important things that we can do. We also need to get to the root cause of why things happen. That person that resorts to gun violence, what may be happening at home? Is it cost of living? Is it a shelter over their head? Are they coming home and their families aren't safe? Is it food insecurity? Did our school system fail them? There's a lot of questions. There's a lot of resources out there. And we gotta make sure that we have equity when we're allocating our resources and our funding. We need to do better for our community in that prevention component and in supporting every family so that they have time to be home together, so that they can care for their little ones, so that we can build community together. And that's gonna be a lot of work, and that requires all of us to be engaged in that process and to really invest in our community.
Thank you. Okay, Karina, please share your priorities for District 3 infill development and the specific projects you're excited about and why.
I'm personally really excited about the Soterios Colatranas project right behind my house. I live off of San Juan, and Bridgeford. So we're gonna have 180 units that I know are for home ownership. And that's something that GNNA advocated for in their community meeting, and the developer agreed to it. They're smaller units, and it's perfect because we don't need 2,000 square feet homes. It's okay to have 900 square feet. And so I'm really excited for that project in particular. But as we do more land use in Natomas, which we will, in both North Natomas and South Natomas, we need to make sure that, one, we're streamlining the process so we can build more units. We can build more units vertical as quick as we can because we're in a housing shortage. But secondly, that we're supporting our neighborhoods and that they look like the neighborhoods that we have right now. And that our developers that are coming in are also paying their Park Quimby fees, our school district fees, and that they're investing in our community. We need to welcome our neighbors. There's a large amount of people that are coming in from the Bay Area and from other places. They're all going to be Sacramentans too. We're all one, and we really got to support each other in this process and build as much housing as possible, because that's one of the solutions on homelessness, on people having a roof over their head, and there's so much more that we need to do.
Michael?
Spark some excitement. Like there's an arts collective, there is the housing development, that's great, because we know in Sacramento is one of the most unaffordable new home price markets in the country. Like, so we have an issue to be able to buy a first home. I like to talk about, I wish I was excited about more. Like more projects coming into South Natomas to fill in vacant spaces, more projects to be able to engage young people, more jobs that are coming into our community. But again, I think we have to draw a contrast here. The reason why I can't talk about the excitement of the new projects because South Natomas historically has been passed over like for resources. We drive along Northgate Boulevard, right? What we could have is a thriving business community. But what you see is infill, what you see is vacant lots, like what you see is encampments, what you see is problem with crime. So what we need is resources to build, and again, you can't have a community council person that's focused on North Natomas. You need to have someone here who is focused on making sure we can bring resources to our community. When we talk about opportunities for young people, I wanted to be able to enroll my daughter, like this summer, who's going into first grade, who just went into first grade in the summer resource program with the city of Sacramento. We had 100 spots. By the time we got there was none left. So I think about families like me who have a 6 and a 3-year-old who are looking for opportunities to engage their kids. There's not a lot here because historically South Natomas hasn't passed over for resources. So we have to do a whole lot more to make sure that we can bring in housing, that we can bring in jobs, we can bring in increased quality of life.
Hey, Michael, where do you stand on Measure L and Y? The reason I'm repeating your names over and over is for the recording. Michael Lynch, where do you stand on Measure L and Y?
So I helped to build one of the most successful college access organizations for young men of color in the country. Started with 17 young people, we served 4,000. We have a 99% high school graduation rate, 80% college attendance rate, $10.8 million budget, we employ 150 people. I talk about improving tomorrow because I know that when you invest in a young person, their life is forever changed. My campaign manager, who was an IYT alum, whose life was transformed. But what happens within the city of Sacramento, unfortunately, every time there is a deficit or a crisis, guess which group of folks get pulled first? Young people. So I strongly support Measure L, because Measure L is going to make sure that our future of our city is young people are going to have the resources they need to be able to thrive. It's going to create a children's fund to access not only for nonprofits, but city resources to invest in young people. So when we see young people come out the community center doing karate classes, having computer classes, they're going to be able to make sure that those programs continue. Even through a recession, they're going to be able to continue. Because oftentimes what you see is every other program getting funded except young people. So Measure L takes a hard stance in making sure that we can have resources to support our most valuable population, young people.
Can you talk about how it's funded in your remaining time?
Yes. It's funded through cannabis revenue. Right? So as cannabis revenue comes into the city, a portion of cannabis revenue will go into making sure that we can have a dedicated children's fund.
Thank you. Karina?
I think we can all agree that we need to do more for our youth. The program my opponent talked about just a second ago that had a 100-person wait list, that's 4th R. It's one of the most established City of Sacramento programs in conjunction with our school districts, are the most popular. And it's at risk. Because that program now has to compete against other organizations. It's at risk. So, when it comes to this program, to this measure, I don't believe in ballot box budgeting. Because I don't believe that you should tie the hands of future councils. Because we will hit another recession. And we will have to make tough decisions. Is it more speed bumps? Is it more sidewalks? Is it less fire, less police, less infrastructure, less parks? You have $1. How are you going to allocate it? Will it go to an organization for an after-school program? Will it go to an organization to do great work with youth, with youth going to college? Or will you use this dollar for a sidewalk or for a park? You have $1, and that $1 can't be used multiple times. We have to be fiscally sound. We need to make sure that our budget reflects the values of the council. And I do believe that we have a council that cares a lot about youth. I am a strong advocate for our youth. As president of the Sac County Board of Education, I care about them. And we need to do better. We need to make sure that they don't have food insecurity, that they're not suffering from instability in their housing, and so much more. We need to look at the root causes of why our youth sometimes cannot excel in school.
Sure, 15 seconds.
That's the political mumbo jumbo we often hear, right, from elected officials, right? That we can't do it. But it's a value-based budgeting cycle. You show me where you spend your money, I show where your values are. So in times of crisis, the folks who often get pulled are the most vulnerable. It's the 3-year-old, it's the 4-year-old, it's the 6-year-olds. We have to make sure we have resources.
Okay, Karina. Teachers in Natomas are concerned about safety for our students, especially to and from schools. How do you see the city directing resources to support student safety?
Our City of Sacramento has a Vision Zero program where we like to make sure that our sidewalks are painted with white lines, that our stop signs are well painted, and that we recruit volunteers from the community to ensure our kids can get safe to school and from school. And that's where the measure, our youth measure, can actually help in making sure that we can support our city employees in the infrastructure our students need to get to school safely. Right now, a lot of our kids are getting chased by off-leash pit bulls on the way to school. We have Northgate, where the principals just want our kids to get to school safely. We need to get those lights installed. We need to reduce the speed of traffic. People use it as a highway. I see people there speeding 60, 70 miles per hour. And with the increase in housing, we're just gonna have more people using Northgate because we don't have enough connections to downtown, where a lot of our jobs are. We have the I-5 or we have Northgate. And that's about it. And that's where we gotta do better to slow down traffic, to improve our landscaping, to make sure that our kids can get to school safely. We gotta do more, we gotta do better.
Michael Lynch?
Yeah, I was the first person in my family to graduate college. Like, and teachers was part of the reason, right? I had some phenomenal teachers that were able to invest in me as a young person who always went ahead in the right direction. So I think about student safety, when I think about teacher safety, I think about like the encampment that we have across the street from Garden Valley Elementary School. I think about solving homelessness. I think about making sure homelessness has almost tripled over the past 5 years. 10,000 homeless people we have here in Sacramento, more than San Francisco. So over the past 5 years, homelessness has increased. So student safety often starts what happens outside of the school. So making sure that we can invest in a family with a quality job, making sure that we can invest we invest in unsheltered person that can find housing, making sure that we can invest in infrastructure for a neighborhood, that we can invest in parks, that we can invest in our young people. So when it comes to making sure that student safety is about making sure we create a community in which a young person can come to school fed. When they come to school fed, when they come to school feeling safe, they're going to show up to school for it to feel better.
Michael Lynch, do you plan to be a full-time council member if elected?
Yes. Yes, right. So listen, right, I run a large nonprofit that is working across 7 counties, has 150 employees, has a $10.8 million budget. Right, the job that I have helped to build, has made sure that we can solve tangible problems. 99% graduate high school, 80% attend college. An organization that is right off of Northgate Boulevard in the district. The job that I have, the organization I have, is one of the most successful in the country. And that organization, what we have built is a system of processes to continue to support young people. Like, and if elected, like by the folks in District 3, yes, I will be a full-time counselor and dedicated to solving the problems that for the past 5 years have not happened within the city of Sacramento. When we think about homelessness, we think about affordability, rents have risen 20%. We think about crime. We just mentioned that there were 4 homicides in the past couple months. The job requires a full-time focus. And the organization that I have built, like the organization that is one of the most effective at closing the college opportunity gap, is going to be able to continue to grow. So as a council person, my focus would be on being a council person, solving the problems that unfortunately our city leaders have not done here in South Natomas.
Karina?
I've spent 8 years as a counselor working for programs like Upper Bound and Educational Talent Search, Soap, helping low-income and first-generation kids get to college. I worked in 4 years working for a Fortune 500 company, connecting people to jobs. And the last 5 years of my life, I've been working at City Hall. And being a chief of staff and being a council member is hard work. I work 70 hours a week. And during the COVID-19 pandemic, I didn't leave City Hall until I knew that we had food secured for our seniors that couldn't leave their homes, childcare for our essential workers, and making sure that we had the safety measures to make sure that we can continue as a city. It was tough. Those 2 years that we were locked down, I never stopped working, not one day in my life, because my role is to serve the city of Sacramento. And I was proud to be one of the last 7 people to leave City Hall. My family was begging me to come home, and I said, no, I'm gonna be here until I can help make sure that we can be in good standing. And in terms of the problems, God, City of Sacramento does have a lot of them, and that requires experience. And I will be a full-time city council member, and I will work hard with you to make sure that we can address these problems together. Actually, just kidding. One more thing. During this COVID-19 pandemic, during this campaign, I have taken a month and a half off of work without pay to be able to campaign. And I'm not gonna lie, it's been tough financially, but it's what you have to do when you're on government time.
Okay, Karina, I know some of you have discussed this already, but another chance to deal with a really chronic issue for our city. The visibility of the unhoused population continues to grow here in District 3. What will you do specifically to tackle homelessness right here within District 3?
One, we have the Staybridge Hotel, which is going to be converted into a shelter for our families. This will house approximately 200 to 600 individuals, and that should be opening this year. And we got this money through Project Home Key. I know Joshua's house is coming near too, and that's in front of Garden Valley Elementary. And this is a project that I'm going to make sure that we have good communication with our neighbors with. And in terms of homelessness, we really need to work with the county. And there is a ballot measure this November where it binds the city and the county together potentially with an MOU saying, hey, we're going to agree together to provide housing and to provide wraparound services. That's probably one of the most important things. Wraparound services so that we can make sure that people that are suffering from drug addiction can seek the services that they need. The wait list for that right now is over 1,000 people long. We need to make sure that people get the mental health services that they need too. We need to make sure that people have housing. We need to do more to clean up our streets. We do need more cleanups, and we can do community cleanups together and with organizations that are doing the work. But most of all, prevention. Right now, our Meadowview Center in South Sacramento is having a lot of women that are over the age of 50 who can't afford their home anymore and are on Social Security, so it's their first time becoming homeless. Unacceptable. And us as leaders, whether it's Congress, statewide, local, county, it doesn't matter. We need to work together, go to a retreat, and solve this issue for all of us, because it's important.
Michael Lynch?
Yeah, homelessness is personal to me. Twice growing up, I was homeless, like as a kid, right? So I understand like the experiences, but I also understand that why my opponent has been like at City Hall, homelessness has gotten worse. And you can visually see it in point, 10,000 homeless people in Sacramento, more than San Francisco. I think that's important to continue to mention. Homelessness has almost tripled over the past 5 years. So we know we have a serious challenge to be able to address. And you have to do a couple different things. One, you have to make sure that you add shelter capacity. Two, you have to expand mental health and substance abuse services. You have to build affordable housing. And for those who are severely mentally ill, you have to build residential treatment facilities and compel them to treatment right through Governor Newsom's new care court plan. I also think I think it's an important theme, hopefully understands prevention is important. The two most likely groups of folks to be homeless, people who are formerly incarcerated, like those foster youth who age out of the system. So what are we doing as a city right now? As a city, every year we're adding homeless people. We're adding roughly 15 homeless people every single year to the city. So we think about the challenges, we think about the status quo, we think about 10,000 homeless people. We have to think that our city leaders have failed to address a tremendously important issue, and it's going to take new leadership with new ideas, not a city hall bureaucrat to solve the problem, right? Because that's helped to create the problem. It's going to take someone who has built something to solve something, to actually move the city forward. Yeah, I would appreciate the rebuttal.
15 seconds.
The homeless crisis hasn't gotten worse the last 5 years under my leadership. It's gotten worse since the 1950s, when we closed down mental health facilities and haven't given people the support system they need to be successful.
Thank you.
That's called passing the blame.
That was a perfect 15-second rebuttal. Hey, while we're on this topic, a question comes in. What is your stance on Measure O? That would be my home first.
Oh.
Yes, me. Yes, when we think about the challenges that the city has, I'm gonna mention this number over the 5 years. The number of unsheltered people have tripled over the past 5 years. Again, when we think about the challenges, when you walk outside of your door, you can clearly see that the problem has grown. You can drive across South and you can see the problem has gotten worse and worse and worse. Measure O is a step in the right direction. So it's one thing that me and my opponent do agree with. It's gonna finally place the city in a way where it's gonna build more shelter capacity. It's going to require them to work with the county to expand services. So Measure O is a measure that's going to move us in the right direction. But it's going to require more than just a measure. It's going to require leadership. It's going to require someone who hasn't been a part of a system of leaders that has failed to solve the most important problem that we have. One of the reasons why I decided to run for city council was because in October of last year, my mom became homeless. It took me 5 months to be able to get her housing. She's disabled and on Section 8. 5 months. So we know our system is broken, and I've experienced it in multiple different ways. So Measure O, yes, is a step in the right direction. But it's not just a measure, it is leadership. It's a thought process, it's experience. I've spent the past 10 years building an organization, a multi-million-dollar organization. I spent 6 years working in the state legislature, helping to create new funds for affordable housing. I've experienced to solve a problem, and as your council person, that's my #1 priority. So make sure we can solve homelessness.
Karina?
My opponent talks a lot about a system. Well, that very system supports my opponent. Some of those systems have made the homeless crisis worse. And something needs to be done. This homeless crisis is humanitarian. And it's not safe for you, it's not safe for the people on the river, it's not safe for the people camping outside of City Hall, it's not safe for anyone. And we gotta do better. And something does need to be done. Now this measure, I'm glad that it binds the city and the county with an MOU, but I am concerned about the legalities of it after it's passed. And I am concerned of where it puts the city of Sacramento financially. I do think it puts us in a precarious situation. But I am hopeful that with this measure, we bind the county and the city together to make sure that we address our biggest problems of mental health services and drug addiction, and making sure that people have a roof over their heads so that people don't become homeless in the first place.
All right, Karina, do you see any issues around South Natomas parks?
Yes, well, we gotta complete this community center, first of all. We gotta protect our abandoned creek. We gotta connect our bike trails. We need to make sure our kids are safe, running up and down our bike trails and not getting chased by dogs. I have heard that a lot. Dogs need to be on leashes. There's a lot. We need to invest our park dollars. Every single year, every single council district gets the same amount of dollars to invest in their parks. And I think that we need to be creative in how we allocate those resources. And I want to make sure that I can hopefully secure more park funding and get creative and have people from the outside invest in our community and really beautify them. Right now at work with Vice Mayor Angelique Ashby, we have our Youth Action Corps program, which is over 1,000 students that volunteer in our parks to beautify them. Whether it's mulch, planting flowers, cleaning up our parks, or volunteering at our farmers market, movie nights, First Friday concerts, it's what we can do. We can bring yak across the entire city. And it's really, God, so affordable. Kids are doing this for free. We just buy them pizza, we do cool t-shirts and glow sticks, and there's so much that we do to make it fun. And I think that's something that we can do. That will come at no cost to the city, really. So I'm looking forward to expanding our yak program and seeing if we can get more investment in our parks, because they're probably one of my most important platform items. Parks, libraries, and road resurfacing and speed bumps, because those are the things that I get asked for at the door all the time.
Michael Lynch?
I'm a frequent user of parks.
Of
I have a
what?
6 and 3-year-old. So you can imagine that, right, parks are important. The parks are important to the well-being of the city. The parks are important for activities for families. I know it, right, because I'm using them all the time. I also know across South Natomas there's vast resource differentials. Some organization Improve Tomorrow, we host a pop-up twice a month for young people in South Natomas. We engage thousands of young people every single year, primarily at Northgate Park. So we see the resource, but also see that the basketball courts need resurfacing. I see the playground, right, needs additional support. I see even the mulch, in which young people fall onto the surface, right, needs help and repair. I say that to say that parks in South Natomas are a critical issue. It's where families interface with. It's one of the places where families interface with their government most often. We know too that there's resource differentials. When we look across North Natomas, there's oftentimes great parks. When we drive down Northgate Boulevard, you'll see very many of them. There's lots of families. So as your council person, not only do I want to make sure that we have better parks, but we need more parks to engage families. We need to make sure that we can host Friday night movies. To make sure we can host events and activities that engage families in a way of safe capacity. When we talk about safety within a community, it's important that we get to know each other. And through parks is one of those ways.
Rebuttal?
Just, 15 seconds. All our parks are important. South Natomas, yes. But so are the North Natomas, West Natomas, Northgate, and Gardenland parks. All our parks are important because all our kids are important. And we need to make sure that we give them the resources they need.
Okay. Michael, what has been your biggest personal and professional contribution to this community, South Natomas, so far?
I was the first person in my family to graduate college. College to me provided a phenomenal different life than what I had growing up. The challenges and experiences that I experienced growing up, my kids won't, because college provided that opportunity. But we know within Sacramento, the young people who are least likely to go to college and graduate are Black and brown and low income. And on the bottom of that is young men of color. So 10 years ago, I created an organization, Improve Your Tomorrow, that has solved the college achievement gap. We grew from 17 young people to close to 4,000 in 7 counties and 13 cities. We employ 150 people. So one of my greatest professional accomplishments is creating an organization that has tangibly solved the problem. And that's what sets me apart in this race. I have built a successful organization that has tangibly served thousands of young people, that has sent hundreds to college, helped the first in their families to graduate college. I've built an organization that has solved the problem. That's important. I think about also too, one of my most proudest accomplishments, is being a father. It's being a father of a 6 and 3-year-old. Every day when I pick my son up from daycare, he runs to me. Every single day, right? So I think about, he's probably the person who's most excited to see me, right? But I think about being a father. I also think about the challenges that working families have here in South Natomas, that have here in District 3. We have problems with crime, we have problems with housing, we have problems with affordability. That's going to take a council person who has done something significant to accomplish that.
Karina?
I helped pass a $172 million school bond. I'm helping open the first family shelter this year. And I've been working to address the problems, but probably one of my most successful accomplishments professionally has been running the vaccination clinic at Natomas High School. I was hitting the pavement every Thursday at 6 in the morning to 10 o'clock at night, every Saturday, making sure that people in Sacramento can be safe. That includes our seniors. And I remember that moment of like relief when they got their vaccination. I remember our teachers getting their vaccines too, and how they were so excited to finally see their students. I remember our families and our janitors and our custodians and our postal workers, and how many partnerships we were able to establish for the greater good of everyone. We worked with our police department, our fire department, our California Nurses Association, our religious faith-based groups, all our teachers from all our different schools came out to volunteer, our county health, our county board of supervisors, Councilmember Harris, Councilmember Ashby. We all came together to run this vaccination clinic, and it was all volunteer ran. And I set it up in 72 hours with 2 other people with the blessing of the county. We also set up a vaccination clinic at the consulate. And it was so nice to be able to vaccinate our farm workers who never stopped working and haven't stopped working during the fires, during the COVID-19 pandemic. And as a proud daughter of immigrant farm workers, nothing makes me more proud than to know that I made them feel safe for one moment in their life.
Karina Talamantes, what are your plans to improve fire and police services?
Our Natomas Unified School District established a public safety pathways program about 4 years ago. And in the next 2 weeks, I know that we'll be graduating the first class. And I see Erica Harden here, one of our Natomas trustees, so thank you. And that's one of the first things, is making sure that students that live in Sacramento can continue to be in Sacramento and contribute to Sacramento in the next capacity of their lives. So that's a program that I'm really excited to have worked on. Secondly, we've got to increase the number of firefighters and police officers that we have. Our academies are down 60%. We're trying to do 3 fire academies within a year to be able to recruit enough personnel so that we don't have fire stations that are closed down because there's not enough personnel, or because there's a million fires going on right now and they're off duty to go help other cities and counties. We need to make sure that we invest in our youth so that they can stay in Sacramento and work in the community that they grew up in, but we also got to make sure that we invest in our staff and make sure that they have the resources they need to be able to be successful in their capacities.
Michael?
Last year, middle of the night, my son started to have trouble breathing. So we called 911. My firefighter showed up within about 3 minutes. I was forever thankful. Because when you call 911, you expect someone to be able to show up. And so for me, when we talk about police and fire, it's investing in the people who are going to come to you when the need matters the most. When we talk about safety, part of that safety is investing in police and fire. Also, when I think about safety, I think about making sure that we hire. And when we're hiring police and fire, we're hiring folks who are from our community, with an intentional a diversity. Right? So when folks show up, they speak their language, right? They understand lived experiences. When I also think about safety, I think about training. I think about making sure that when an officer shows up to a situation that could be violent, that they have de-escalation training where they know how to de-escalate the moment. But also, too, safety from the person who's being, who's a part of the incident. Make sure that there is training, that there's racial implicit bias training. But we also know within our BIPOC community, especially our Black community, police can often be a challenge. We think about homicide, we think about all the different challenges. I think about fire. Make sure that we can invest in the resources and training, right, to support the community. So when you call 911, just like I did when my son was having a hard time breathing, someone's going to show up. And that requires an investment. And as a council person, I will continue to make that investment in police and fire.
All right, this is the last question before we go to closing remarks. And I know you've both really talked a lot about your professional careers and your skills, but when you answer this question, could you be thinking rather than just District 3, but on this question, just be thinking the big picture of the entire city, because you'll be serving the entire city if elected. Please share 2 skills you have developed during your professional career which will be instrumental in your role on the city council. And Michael.
The first one is leadership. So I've helped to build an organization from 17 young people to 4,000 that employs 150 people. You can imagine that requires a great deal of leadership, and leadership is about creating a goal and giving other people the tools to be able to solve it. At City Hall, you have 5,000 staff. Now, as a council person, they look to you to be able to lead it. Like, I've developed those skills over 10 years. But also, I developed those skills as a senior advisor in the California State Legislature, where I help to be able to staff and bring upon actual solutions. I think about problem solving. The problem that I identified was a college achievement gap for young men of color. It was a problem that almost every school district in Sacramento failed to be able. So I identified a problem, and I created an organization to tangibly solve that problem. Leadership and problem solving. When you think about the council person that you want to be able to represent you, you want them to be able to have leadership and integrity. Since I have a little more time, I'm gonna add one more. Integrity. Integrity is tremendously important. It's being able to say what you, do what you say what you mean. I may have got that reversed, right? But integrity is important to make sure that you that you're honest, that you're hardworking, and you do what you say. Problem solving, integrity, and leadership. That's what I'll be about as your council person for District 3.
Karina?
The ability to listen. When I was working with my students, some of them didn't want to go to college and wanted to go straight into a career. Had to guide them that way. Some of them wanted to go to 2 years, some of them wanted to go to 4 years, some of them wanted to go to UC. I listened as a counselor because that's what you do. You build those relationships. When I worked in HR, I listened when I interviewed people to see what they were looking for in the next step in their careers. And as a chief of staff, as a school board trustee, and as being on the library board, I listen to people. Because listening is probably one of the most important things that elected officials can do. Being humble, reaching across the aisle, and having a conversation that you don't agree with, that you believe the complete opposite as the person that you're talking to. Because right now, in Sacramento, California, and across the country, people are so divisive, and we're quick to judge each other, and not give each other an opportunity to explain how and why you feel a certain way. And I think that we need to be better and reach across the aisle and have those uncomfortable conversations, because that will create change. That'll give you an opportunity to build trust and build a relationship and have that honest conversation. And at the end of the day, be transparent about where you stand. My goal as a council member is to make sure that I don't overpromise and underdeliver. I will never do that to you. I will be honest. When you ask me for that speed bump, I'll say, I'm sorry, those 3 speed bumps were already taken care of. When you ask me for what happened with that vote, I'll come home. We have really tough decisions to make at City of Sacramento, yes and no, and I'll be accountable to you, my people of District 3 and the people of Sacramento.
Okay, you have 1 minute for closing statements, and we'll begin with Michael Lynch.
The District 3 voters will have a choice. You have a choice between the status quo that has largely failed to be able to solve our most pressing challenges of homelessness and affordability, or you have a choice between a problem solver. We want to help to create an organization that has solved a tangible problem. So I'm raising my family right here in District 3. I own a home right here in District 3. I'm connected to this community, and I'm connected to the families. For us, as we move the city forward, when we talk about tangibly solving the problems we have in our city, it's going to take a different type of leader, a different type of leadership. Like leadership who's not connected to those that have continuously failed to solve the tangible problems, someone who has solved the actual problems. And I ask you to think about this when you make a choice. Over the past 5 years, has your quality of life improved? Because just like I said in the beginning, I know Sacramento can do better. Thank you.
Karina Talamantes.
So I live near Chuckwagon Park, across the street from my brother, across the street from my Theo Julian and my cousins, and we're all 1.5 miles apart. And that's my family. And I love my family just as much. I may not be a mother, I may not be a wife yet, but that's okay. Because I have a big family that I love, a dog and 2 cats and my partner here, and I love this community. And family doesn't have to be about your biological sons and daughters. It's about who you call your own family, whether they may be a stepmom, stepdad, or someone that you adopted. What matters most is the love that you carry right here. And I love our community, and I will work hard for you every single day of my life. And that's why people like former Mayor Heather Fargo, Ray Trotthaway, Councilmember Ashby, our different school board trustees in the area like Natomas Unified Trustee Susan Heredia, who lived in Natomas for 20, 30 years of her life, have endorsed me. Because I have that love and the passion and the work ethic to help carry our community across the finish line to make sure that we seek the money and the resources that we need to be successful as one whole.
I really want to thank both of you, Michael Lynch, Karina Talamantis, for running for City Council and for meeting with the community tonight. And thank Randy Boyd and the Thomas Boys and Gardenland. Really, she is definitely one of our favorite people to work with. And we want to thank you too, the league volunteers that showed up tonight to do the timing and things, but we really want to thank you too, the audience, because you showed up and asked great questions. So you're engaged civically tonight, and the league just loves that. As a reminder, the ballots will go out on October 8th. So register or re-register right now if you've moved, or if your name has changed, or maybe your signature has changed a little bit. It's very easy to re-register right here tonight or online. And you can return your ballot in a secure drop box anywhere in the county, including all the county libraries and many of the Rayleighs and Bel Airs. Or you can vote in person at a vote center anywhere in the county, doesn't matter where. And the locations for these drop boxes and vote centers will be listed in the ballot information that comes in the mail for you. Now, one last pitch for votersedge.org. Nonpartisan voter information available. You can learn more about these candidates and all the candidates that will be on your ballot. So now you are an informed voter. Pass it along. Good evening.